Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today. Hope you're all doing absolutely excellent, and today we are gathering to talk about BioWare. Last time we talked about BioWare, it was yet another existential conversation on the company because EA had been bought out for $55 billion by the PIF, Silver Lake, Affinity Partners, basically Kushner, and the Saudis gobbled them up, and with $18 billion to clear off in debt, EA is no doubt going to start doing layoffs, embracing AI, and shutting down what studios aren't generating them a lot of money. Obviously, that turned a lot of the industry's attention over to BioWare because they just put up a really bad performance in their last game. They haven't sold many games outside of that. They take a really long time to make their games, and they're always in development hell. And it seems like they've become a lot more trouble than they're worth to the big bad EA, especially when you have companies like Respawn that just seem to be able to be this multi-tool that can handle anything thrown their way, from Battlefield to Star Wars to Titanfall. You kind of have the company that can give you your single player and your multiplayer, which is what EA always wanted out of BioWare. And after, of course, Veilguard, BioWare has dramatically scaled down to a skeleton crew working on the next Mass Effect game. And so approaching this N7 day, I was not expecting much from BioWare at all. I had no coverage plans on the calendar because, number one, like many of you, I'm in this sort of shut up and dribble mode for this company. Like, y'all do your thing. You have to put up an all-timer performance to make many of us care because Veilguard was a traumatic experience for a lot of us who took the time to play it. And I don't say that lightly about games as someone who has played and reviewed hundreds of them. However, there's been two comments out of BioWare with this N7 day that I have to say did catch me off guard, that they actually went out there and addressed these certain things. One is more implications on the future of the franchise as a whole, which I was surprised to see them talk about at all, especially with such a level of certainty. The other was just more broadly speaking about the TV show, which I also didn't expect given the current status of the franchise and how I think any type of risky endeavor right now for Mass Effect or BioWare as a whole is a whole other level of gambling. Because just like I said with Mass Effect Legendary Edition, and also I've talked a lot about with in our Dara interview, a Dragon Age Legendary Edition, BioWare kind of needs a safe, easy win right about now. So I wanted to break down some of the stuff that was talked about with N7 Day and where I think BioWare is at, because definitely what they said was of interest to me. So if you're new here and you're into watching this roller coaster of a ride known as BioWare, consider subscribing. So they have a big blog post over on the BioWare pages they usually do for N7 Day, thanking the fans. This one's written out by executive producer Mike Gamble, but it opens up with this. Like you, we've heard the rumors lately. You've made it clear you care deeply about what's next. So let's start by setting the record straight. The next Mass Effect game is in development, and EA and BioWare remain committed to telling more stories in this universe. The truth is, the last few years have been an incredibly busy time at BioWare, but currently, the team is heads down and focused exclusively on Mass Effect. We have a lot of universe to cover, lots of features to build, and lots of romances to figure out. We're excited by what we're building, and we promise you, when we're ready, it'll be a lot of fun to show. But until then, thank you for your patience because y'all are thirsty for news, and I see you looking for secret meanings in my tweets, which sometimes do have that secret meaning. So yeah, this is the main thing that got me to make the video, because if it was just lore stuff, which we'll talk about in a little bit after this, I was yeah, it doesn't feel like really the time or the place, nor do I really have the belief that any of this will really come to pass. And I still, in my gut, in my heart of hearts, still don't feel like this will come true. But for BioWare to come out and be EA and BioWare are committed to this, I think does say a little something. We're talking about in a post-buyout world, but at the same time, how much can you trust what they say when we have Xbox trauma to reflect on? The amount of times Xbox has said one thing and then another thing has happened is living rent-free in my head, where I look at this and I'm okay, I mean, I've already replaced BioWare in my head with a bunch of other developers, so I'm just curious to see if they can land the plane and can even get the next Mass Effect out. We already have Exodus on the way, which is no doubt, I think, going to be the Mass Effect follow-up we've been waiting for. We have The Expanse: Osiris Reborn. My brain, in the terms of needs for Mass Effect, is already taken care of, and it's put a ton more pressure on BioWare than they already had to deliver. And I mean, even if that wasn't the case, just after Veilguard, just being given another chance, it's okay, you really better figure it out now. But I think the truth is that if EA has a choice between clearing the $18 billion off their books and getting the deal done and getting a ton of people paid, or keeping BioWare and Mass Effect afloat, I think we all know what the obvious, easy choice for the execs to make would be. The one thing that I think is potentially working in BioWare's favor is that they're an extremely small team right now. They're likely not demanding a lot of budget at this moment in time, which could put them in one of two positions. It's kind of like we've talked about. Again, we'll go back to Xbox with companies like Double Fine or Compulsion or Ninja Theory, where you look at where Xbox is going in the terms of chasing like big name franchises, your Call of Duty, Minecraft, Forza, maybe Fallout, all these big names, right? And so one of two things can happen. Those smaller developers are like, why do we even have you? Get these smaller teams off our books and let's divert our resources entirely to the things that make us money. Or again, if you're making billions of dollars like an EA or a Microsoft, then they are sometimes too small for you even to really notice on the sheet. So it's possible BioWare is just like nimble and small enough where they might just eke on by. But part of me is like not really buying it fully, especially because eventually it's not even going to be EA's call. It's going to be the new ownership's calls. And they're going to be like, all right, let's check out this Mass Effect. What do you got for us here? So EA is just committed to BioWare on a level that I think has surprised all of us for all of their flaws. Like I think there's been a million times where we all thought, certainly they're going to close their doors now. And I think a lot of us thought like post Veilguard, yeah, like here it comes. This has to be the time. And even that wasn't it. So to their credit, they've hung with BioWare. The question is, will new leadership hang with BioWare? And I'm still of the mind that that will not happen. But while we're here, there was more to this post that I figured let's talk about that as well while we're going into Mass Effect. Gamble writes, beyond the next game, there's more to get excited about. I haven't talked about it much, but you might have heard a little something about a TV series. We've been partnering closely with Amazon on it, and we're really excited with what the talented team over there is coming up with. The writer's room is going strong, and we've got a lot figured out about how it fits within the Mass Effect canon, and where it sits in respect to the new game. The show will explore a brand new story within the universe's timeline, and will be set after the original trilogy. It won't be a retread of Commander Shepard's story because, after all, that's your story, isn't it? Discovered on the Mass Effect Reddit, the Mass Effect TV show production is set to begin in the fourth quarter of next year, so we're still a ways away from this one. I have to say, this is actually good news to me because, I mean, when you saw John Cena like posting on Twitter something about Commander Shepard, a lot of us were like, oh, is he going to be Shepard? I mean, that would be a pretty good fit, I gotta be honest. But at the same time, man, I'm sorry if I just sound like a pure hater, but like the lineup of talent for this TV show is like awe-inspiringly bad. Everything from like Ari Arad to the lead writer of a Fast and Furious movie now penning the script for what we're seeing as a RPG spin-off story in the Mass Effect universe. I think the most convincing part about this whole thing is nothing to do with the show. It's really Prime. Like, okay, Prime's behind it. And if they're behind it, they're also behind Fallout, and Fallout turned out really well, but Fallout had like Nolan behind it. It had like great actors and actresses from like Aaron Moten and Walton Goggins to Ella Purnell. Like it had everything really there. And the only doubt was like, how is Bethesda going to represent this universe? Because sometimes they favor their Eastern United States pocket a little bit more, but they go full West Coast, full OG with it, like really represent the essence, the authenticity of Fallout. They do a great job, but like all that is doing the heavy lifting for otherwise a TV series that doesn't have the greatest band of talent surrounding it, and the IP being in a kind of dire position where it's funny how Fallout and Mass Effect are kind of like in this same pocket. Like both fan bases are a little pissed off, and the TV shows stand as like the best chance to get anything like decent out of the franchise as it currently stands, but it's still not going to fill that void of like, man, I want a great Mass Effect game. Which, speaking of which, Mike Gamble already posted on his Twitter account that all these N7 days will connect. So if you're tracking them, then you're keeping up to date with what seems to be an evolving plot for Mass Effect 5. The post for this N7 day led to a concept art of a Krogan in a civil war. And so a lot of people went, huh, cool. But really, the extra context that was added by Gamble on his Twitter account got a lot of people thinking again. Bethesda, if you're watching this, look at what's happening with the Mass Effect community and BioWare community. I'm being honest, there's no reason to be excited right now. There's no reason to be interested right now. The objective part of our brain is sitting here going, yeah, after Veilguard, I'm going to like sit and wait at best, or at where most people are at this point is I'm just not going to care at all. There's a million other games and great RPGs to play, and BioWare's not making them nowadays, and that's fine with them. Despite all that, here you have people having conversations about it. So again, Bethesda, embrace the ARG life, would you? Anyway, Mike Gamble confirms on his Twitter account that this Civil War is not a past event, but a future event, which is a pretty significant deal here because of the two alien races that you find in the Mass Effect franchise, the Krogans and the Asari, those are the only two that can live for a long time. And a lot of people were looking at this Civil War image here, wondering if, like, is it Grunt, but like Grunt's really young? So is it Rex, like from Mass Effect 1, you know, who was like a little bit more middle of the pack? Like, who is it? That's the big question here. Because if Liara's here, and Liara, we saw the wrinkles on her face, like it's at least a couple 100 years in the future from Mass Effect 3. So it's got to be a character that can still be alive, but fit in that timeline. It could also just be an entirely new Krogan. But look, man, I cured the Krogans thinking there would be progress. Here y'all are fighting each other again. What are we doing here, baby? What are we doing here? This completely changes the choices I'm going to make whenever I like have my Cope replay of the Mass Effect trilogy sometime soon. I've missed the trilogy in all honesty, but yeah, there is just a little bit to talk about here on this N7 day. Everything from BioWare kind of dropping what I thought was a pretty surprising statement of like pure confidence. Like, yeah, we're here to stay and we're here to deliver this, all the way to updates on the TV show. And then a little bit here on the ARG front. So yeah, we'll continue to keep that cautious, watchful eye on BioWare and see where things go. I mean, I should end this on a positive note. It feels right to do, which is just like, you know, man, like I'm not sitting here acting like it's going to happen, but I hope they succeed. You know, I really do. I don't want them to fail. They have really been given a limitless amount of chances. They would be foolish to not take full advantage of this one final chance to save the studio. It's a lot of pressure. I don't envy it at all, but they have the kind of golden child IP to really do it with. Dragon Age was always messy. Mass Effect is the perfect place to try and clean things up with, but obviously since Mass Effect 3, we've kind of been on this downhill slope with BioWare. So I'm not holding my breath, but am wishing them the best and hoping that this does turn out well. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me know your thoughts down below. No doubt it'll be an interesting conversation because we're daring to talk about BioWare, but curious to see what you have to say nonetheless. Other than that, though, take excellent care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next one. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.